This is part 16, and in this part we will continue our discussion as far as chapter 5 of the Negotiable Instrument Act is concerned, which deals with presentment. And by this time we have learned that a negotiable instrument, depending upon the nature, if it is promissory note and if it is a check, that is required to be presented for the purpose of payment. And what is this presentment for the purpose of payment? It is required to be taken, it is required to be exhibited, it is required to be taken to the person who is supposed to carry out payment for the purpose of payment. That is what is known as presentment for payment. As compared to this, in case of a bill of exchange, as first of all, bill of exchange is required to be presented for the purpose of, this is the general procedure and details we have worked out. But what is required to be done? A bill of exchange is required to be presented for the purpose of acceptance, and liability of the drawee starts only when he has accepted the bill of exchange, and then it is required to be presented to the acceptor for the purpose of payment. So presentment for payment is common in case of a promissory note, bill of exchange or check with which you are dealt. Then we dealt with the procedure that is required to be followed when it is required to be followed. I mean, what do you mean by reasonable time? Hours of presentment, rest of the details with which you are dealt when we started discussing right from section 61 onwards of the Negotiable Instrument Act. And the time we during our last part we had come up to section 75A as far as this part is concerned. With this now, the next part, that is last part as far as this chapter is concerned, for which first of all we will finish with section 77, which is the last section, which deals with liability of banker for negligently dealing with bill presented for payment. What is the I mean, this has concern with liability, but as it is correlated with presentment, this has been included. And what it says, when a bill of exchange accepted at a specified bank has been duly presented there for payment and dishonored, if the banker so negligently or improperly keeps, deals with or delivers back such bill as to cause loss to the holder, he must compensate the holder for such loss. So it is liability of the banker for negligently dealing with bill presented for payment. What is this liability is dealt as far as section 77 is concerned. And the last section to which we refer to is regarding when presentment unnecessary, which is a question of this is enumeration dealt by section 76. And what it deals with, it says, it starts, no presentment for payment is necessary. Does it mean that, I mean, it is not required that it is, I mean, required to be presented for the purpose of payment? Yes, under the circumstances that are enumerated as far as section 76 is concerned. And what is the effect of it? And the instrument is dishonored. So it is, though it is not generally if it is a bill of exchange, it can be dishonored either for non-acceptance or for non-payment. If it is a promissory note, if it is a bill of exchange, or if it is a check, it can be dishonored for non-payment. Now this is the case where even though it is not presented, so I mean, how it can be dishonored? The person who is supposed to carry out payment with respect to the same, he has not carried out payment. If it doesn't pay the amount, then it is said that it is dishonored for non-payment. But as far as section 76 is concerned, it deals with the cases where it says no presentment, even though it is not presented for payment. And then the instrument, if it is not presented for the purpose of payment, the instrument is dishonored at due date for presentment. So it will be dishonored. It will be dishonored at the due date for presentment. So where it ought to have been presented, if it is not presented, and if the case falls under any one of the categories with which we are going to deal as far as section 76 is concerned, then in any of, then it says it is dishonored, and hence once whether it is whether the bill of exchange is dishonored for non-acceptance, or whether promissory note, bill of exchange or check is dishonored for non-payment, the next steps that are required to be followed. And which are those steps? The party who must get the payment with respect to the negotiable instrument for which the negotiable instrument is drawn will proceed where the remedy that is available to him is to establish his right, and the nature of the right is civil right. So he will have to go to the civil court to recover the amount. So he will have to file a suit in a court of law. But then in a case, this happens when only in a case when the negotiable instrument is dishonored. Now this is the case where this, as far as section 76 is concerned, it says the instrument is dishonored at the due date of presentment. And which is the due date of presentment? Every negotiable instrument is required to be presented for the purpose of payment when it becomes mature. And we have already taken into consideration what do you mean by maturity of a negotiable instrument. And which are the key grounds, or which are the cases where it will be dishonored at due date of presentment. And it starts, as far as subclause small a is concerned, it says if the maker or drawee or acceptor intentionally prevents the presentment of the instrument. So now the maker, drawee or acceptor, what they have done, they have intentionally, so actively done something. So it's not possible for him to present the instrument for the purpose of payment. That is a ground where if the maker, drawee or acceptor intentionally prevents the presentment of the instrument, then on due date it shall be dishonored and no presentment, because every time, now mind well, during course of time, once you go to the court of law and say that the negotiable instrument is dishonored, it is must for you to prove, and for that there is a provision that a notice of dishonor is required to be given, with which we shall be dealing. Not only notice of dishonor, but then along with this we will also take into consideration what do you mean by noting and protest, which is authentic and satisfactory proof of evidence when the matter goes to the court of law. It's not that you take a promissory note, you have a bill of exchange with you, you have a check with you, you keep it with you for a number of time or till it becomes mature, and go proceed against the party in a court of law for saying the payment is not carried out. So the payment will be carried out, no doubt about it. Subject to what? Subject to you follow the procedure. And what is the procedure? Presentment for payment. But in case where he intentionally, maker, drawee or acceptor intentionally prevents the presentment of the instrument, then naturally this is, even though it is not presented for the purpose of payment, it will be dishonored at due date for presentment. Nextly it says, if the instrument being payable at his place of business, so maker is supposed to carry out payment at his place of business, drawee is supposed to carry out, or acceptor is supposed to carry out payment at his place of business, he closes such place on a business day during the usual business hours. When you expect a person who wants to get payment with respect to his to go, when he is expected to go, he will go on a business day, not a public holiday. He will go on business day. And what are the hours? During usual business hours. That will depend upon the nature of the business and as the practice that is followed as far as that particular locality is concerned. Accordingly, But if the instrument being payable at his place of business, so when it is payable at his place of business, he closes such place on a business day. The place is closed on a business day, and what is it? During the usual business hours. Or if the instrument being payable at some other specified place, it is made payable at a specified, so you can make mention of the terms and conditions as it is a contract, that it is payable at a specified place. Neither he, so in that case neither he or nor any person authorized to pay it attends at such place during the usual business hours. So he is not available, or any person authorized to pay it is also not available at that place during the usual business hours. Or if the instrument not being payable at any specified place, he cannot after due search be found. So if it is not payable at a specified place, naturally it is must for the person who wants to claim get payment with respect to the same to approach him. And then if it is not made payable at a specified place, then what he has to do? He has to carry out search. And if I mean he cannot be found after due search, then naturally there cannot be presentment for payment. And even though there is no presentment for payment, as per this section, on this negotiable instrument at the due date for presentment will be dishonored, and as soon as it is dishonored, the party can start further proceedings from the point of view of getting payment with respect to the same. Subclause B says, as against any party sought to be charged therewith, if he has engaged to pay notwithstanding non-presentment. So now this is a case where even though it is not presented, the party says the party has agreed to pay even though there is notwithstanding non-presentment. So even though it is not presented, for the purpose of payment the party has undertaken to pay. That is a ground as far as clause B is concerned, which says as against any party sought to be charged therewith, he can if he has engaged to pay notwithstanding not presentment. Subclause C says, as against any party if after maturity, with knowledge that the instrument has not been presented, he makes. So what is done by the party who is supposed to carry out payment? Maker, drawee and acceptor. And now it says as against any party if after maturity, with knowledge that the instrument has not been presented, he makes a part payment on account of the amount due on the instrument. So if he has carried out, if on account he makes a part payment on account of amount due on the instrument, or promises to pay the amount due thereon in whole or in part, or otherwise waives his right to take advantage of any default in presentment for payment. So if the party, as against any party, if after maturity, with knowledge that the instrument has not been presented after maturity, now if he makes a part payment on account of the amount due on his instrument or on the instrument, or promises to pay the amount due thereon in whole or in part, or otherwise waives his right to take advantage of any default in presentment for the payment, then in that case, for example, on the due date, namely for presentment, the instrument is dishonored, and hence presentment for payment is not at all necessary as far as subclause C is concerned. So there can be, he has given up his right, namely it may be express or it may be implied. This is what is known as waiver. He has given up his right accordingly. And lastly, a last subclause D says, as against the drawer, if the drawer could not suffer damage from the want of such presentment. For example, in case of accommodation bill, where it is to accommodate the drawer, and hence he will not suffer, even though it is not presented for the purpose of payment, he will not suffer any damage. This is known to him. Or if he has issued a check, and if he is fully aware that the check will be dishonored by the banker because he doesn't have a sufficient balance, or he has not managed to have a sufficient balance, these are the cases where if the drawer is not going to suffer any damage from the want of such presentment. In that case, we say the presentment is unnecessary, and then as per section 76, no presentment for payment is necessary, and the instrument is dishonored at the due date for presentment as far as these cases are concerned. With this now, we start with the next chapter dealing with payment and interest. And then, to whom payment should be made is the first question. That is, you have to as to the parties who are supposed to carry out payment, they have to pay it to whom? And the answer, this chapter starts right from section 78 up to section 81 of the Negotiable Instrument Act. And the first section starts with to whom payment should be made. And what it says, it starts with the wording, subject to the provisions of section 82, clause C. Payment of the amount due on the promissory note, bill of exchange or check must, in order to discharge the maker or acceptor, be made to the holder of the instrument. So to whom the payment is required to be made? The payment is required to be made. But this has got reference to what? This section has got reference to section 82, clause small c. And then this is the next chapter with which we shall be dealing, chapter 7, which deals with what? When the discharge from liability of notes, bills and checks. And then while dealing with it's when we will start discussing section 82, it says the maker, acceptor or endorser respectively of a negotiable instrument is discharged from liability thereon. But then I will read only at present only I will read small c. By payment, it says, to all parties thereto, if the instrument is payable to bearer or has been endorsed in blank, and such maker, acceptor or endorser makes payment in due course of the amount due thereon. So this has also got reference to section 10, which deals with payment is required to be carried out in due course with which you are dealt. Or we will again come to when we shall be working out details, we will come to the. So the payment, this is subject to what? This is subject to section 82. But then what it says, subject to the provisions of section 82, clause C, small c, payment of the amount due on the promissory note, bill of exchange or check must, in order to discharge the maker. So when the maker will be discharged, when the acceptor will be discharged, it is required to be made to the holder of the instrument as far as section 78 is concerned. And then it also, the person who gets the payment, it is not only the amount, but along with the amount, he is entitled to get interest. And then section 79 says interest when a rate specified, and it says when interest at a specified rate is expressly made payable on a promissory note, bill of exchange, interest shall be calculated. So interest shall be calculated. First of all, it is mentioned when interest at a specified rate is expressly made payable on a promissory note or bill of exchange, interest shall be calculated at the rate specified on the amount of the principal money. So namely the for which the negotiable instrument is drawn, on the principal money due thereon, from the date of the instrument. So interest is required to be calculated from the date of the instrument until tender or realization of such amount, or until such date after the institute to
incur such amount as the code directs. So last clause says until such date, if the amount is not paid and the person is compelled by the circumstances to go to the court of law to establish his rights and he has filed a suit, then it says until such date after the institution of a suit. So when he has instituted a suit to recover such amount as the court direct. So when the directions are given by the court, as per the direction he is entitled. So this is as far as section 79 is concerned, which says when interest at a specified rate is expressly made payable on a promissory note or bill of exchange, interest shall be calculated at the rate specified on the amount of principal money due thereon from the date of the instrument, that is the date which appears on the instrument, until tender or realization of such amount, or until such date after the institution of a suit to recover such amount as the court directs. And then when we, in order to find out as to which is the date on which the negotiable instrument was drawn, then it is, as to date, there is a presumption. As per what? There is a presumption as far as section 118 is concerned, which says until the contrary is proved, the following presumption shall be made. And small b says that every negotiable instrument bearing a date was made or drawn on such date. So this has got which is the date, you must know the date, and hence it says that every negotiable instrument bearing a date was made or drawn on such date, as far as small b of section 118 is concerned. With this now, section 80, and what is section 80? It deals with interest when no rate specified. So if no rate is specified, the guidelines are laid down as far as section 80 is concerned, which says when no rate of interest is specified in the instrument. So interest rate of instrument is silent as far as the rate of interest is concerned. Then it says when no rate of interest is specified in the instrument, interest on the amount due thereon. So the interest on the amount due thereon shall, notwithstanding any agreement relating to interest between any parties to the instrument, be calculated at the rate of, so it shall be calculated at the rate of 18% per annum from the date at which the same ought to have been paid by the party charged until tender or realization of the amount due thereon, or until such date after the institution of a suit to recover such amount as the court directs. And explanation to the section says when the party charged is the endorser of an instrument dishonored by non-payment, he is liable to pay interest only from the time that he receives notice of dishonor. Now this can be recovered. These are the parties who are supposed to carry out payment. But a party, as we have when we were discussing the right of the holder, who in due course he has got right to recover amount from any one of the prior parties. Ultimately, so he can recover from any one of the holders, and the holder will recover it ultimately from the principal debtor. That is the relationship with which you are dealt during the course of our discussion. So explanation says when the party charged is the endorser of an instrument, he is an endorser of the instrument. So the party is not, the party is not the maker, drawee or acceptor, but he is, when the party charged is the endorser of an instrument dishonored by non-payment, he is, if it is dishonored by non-payment, in that case he is liable to pay interest only from the time that he receives notice of dishonor. So he can, claim interest only when he receives notice of dishonor. Now the notice of dishonor is required to be given. Unless the notice of dishonor is given, then then only it is possible for you to proceed against the party, otherwise not. Under certain circumstances, the notice is dishonored is waived. This is a chapter right from 91 up to 98, with which we shall be dealing during course of our discussion when we start understanding provisions regarding notice of dishonor. And then section 98, where the notice of dishonor is dispensed with, even though the notice of dishonor is not given, the party has got right rest of the details with which we shall be dealing. With this we come to the last section, and that is section 81. And what is section 81? It says delivery of instrument on payment or indemnity in case of loss. And what it says, any person liable to pay and called upon by the holder thereof to pay. So one who is liable to pay and is called to pay, then the amount due on a promissory note, bill of exchange or check is before payment entitled to have it shown. So he will show that, well, I am supposed to carry or pay, I am supposed to get payment with respect to the same. So what he will do, such a person is before payment entitled to have it shown and is on payment. So as soon as the payment is carried out, is on payment entitled to have it delivered up to him, or if the instrument is, so he has to deliver up to him. So again, it is not that he will keep it with him. He will have to, section 81 says, any person liable to pay and called upon by the holder thereof to pay the amount due on a promissory note, bill of exchange or check, he is before payment entitled to have it shown and is on payment entitled to have it delivered up to him. Or if the instrument is lost, for example, if the instrument is lost or cannot be produced, or to be indemnified against any further claim thereon as against him. So again, in such a case, in case of loss of instrument, then naturally the provision regarding indemnity, or he has to, the person has to indemnify. So to be indemnified against any further claim thereon against him. So if their claim is made again on the part of such a person in case of lost instrument, he has to give an indemnity. He has to be indemnified against any further claim thereon against him. With this now, clause 2 and clause 3, as far as this section is concerned, 81 is concerned, deals with the electronic image of a truncated check. Now we have not yet dealt with it, and hence during course of our lecture, when we will have reference back to section 6 to study further part as far as the definition of the check is concerned, we will come to this aspect during course of our lecture. With this now, the procedural aspect to certain extent, barring now, before we start, right from section, we intend to start right from section 82 up to section 90 from the point of view of understanding discharge from liability on notes, bills or check. And then the further part we shall be dealing with, that is, it deals with notice of dishonor right from section 91 up to section 98, noting and protest right from section 99 up to section 104A, acceptance and payment for honor right from section 108 up to 116 are the sections with which we will continue our discussion during course of time.